Actually, Krishna had prepared the terrain. How said it? The terrain. So Prabhupada came, and these young people are very impressed with Srila Prabhupada. Most of all because of his example. He would lead an open life. When he came, he practically had nothing. He just had some books that he had translated, the Bhagavatam, first volume, first kind of the Bhagavatam. And he was leading a very simple life. Simple life and high thinking. When young people came to visit him, they could see that this person was living extremely simple. He was sitting on the floor, he was sleeping on the floor. All he had was with a little trunk, like in India they have these metal trunks. And in the back they could see Prabhupada had washed his clothes and hanged them to dry. And he started cooking for them. When the young people came to see Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada was also cooking for himself. And very simply, dal or khichdi, sabji, chapatis, like that. And when the young people came to see Srila Prabhupada, they discovered that at midday, Prabhupada would always invite them to eat. And he gave them not just food, but he gave them actually prasad. Prasad. In Sanskrit, prasad actually means mercy. And Krishna, it says in the Bhagavad Gita, that one should only accept food that has been offered with love and devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When you eat food, ordinary food, it's charged with so much karma, loaded with karma. When you prepare the food in the mode of goodness, sattva guna, and you offer with love and devotion to Krishna, a picture of Krishna or deities of Krishna like that, Krishna extracts all this karma, and you're actually taking food that is free from reactions. And not only that, that food has also the potency of purifying ourselves, liberating ourselves from the accumulating karma within the heart. We have so many seeds of karma within our heart, due to our activities in previous lives, on this life. And the process of devotional service, including also the accepting of food, helps us to become purified of this karma. We are loaded with so much karma that might, so many, like I mentioned, seeds that become manifest in due course of time. Actually, there's no injustice. There's a lay of karma, law of karma, and I say cosecha.
To reap.
We reap, the reactions to our activities. Whatever happens to us in this life, it's all due to our past activities and the karma. There's karma, there's vikarma, there's akarma. Karma is like it's in the West they say, it's the law of action and reaction. How is it? I don't know in English. Anyway. Then there's vikarma. Vikarma means sinful activities. I would mention these sinful activities in this purport, like eating meat, intoxication, illicit sex outside of marriage, and how you say, gambling. These are activities that contaminate our heart. We accumulate so many sinful reactions to our sinful activities. And there's our karma. There's another kind of activities that's our karma. In Sanskrit, when there's an A in front of, how you say, subjects? I don't remember the English word. Anyway, it nullifies, contradicts. Our karma means no karma. You act on a spiritual platform. You act in devotional service. In the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with devotion, with love. And these kind of activities don't produce any reactions. And not only that, also they help us purify ourselves, liberate ourselves from the reactions accumulated since many, many, many lives. So this is very important. no, an important item of our spiritual path is that we should only eat food that has been offered with devotion, prepared and offered, Hare Krishna, no, to the Supreme Person of God. And Prabhupada introduced this from the very beginning. No, like I mentioned, he used to cook very simply, and then the first disciples came and Prabhupada gave them prasad. And even though it was so simple, incredibly simple, it was, no, the young people were impressed about the taste and all this. No? Why is this? No, because the consciousness of the cook actually goes into the food. No, that's why we are as devotees, we're very careful, no, and only allowing people to cook, or to prepare food to be offered and distributed, no, that are done in devotional service, were prepared with devotion. Well, as you know, no, also vegetarian. Milk products, Prabhupada used to say, milk helps to develop fine tissues of the brain, which are necessary to go more deep into these subject matters, spiritual subject matters. That's why, you all know, the cows originally is protected. It's actually one of our mothers. Like our mother gave us milk, supplied milk for us, the cow continues giving milk. That's why she's accepted actually as one of our mothers. We have several mothers. Our own mother, then there's also the queen, in Vedic culture, the queen also, and the wife of a Brahmin, or spiritual master, also accepted as a mother. And these mothers should all be protected. Srila Prabhupada used to explain that a lady, a woman, should always be protected. It says actually in the Vedic literature, it says the two big wars, like Ram against Ravana, big war in Sri Lanka, and then also the war of Kurukshetra, where Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita. These two wars actually manifested because of offenses against chaste ladies, Sita, and also Draupadi. They tried to take her clothes off in public like that. And because of that, the reaction was a war. This is actually Vedic information, very interesting. So the ladies should always be protected. They should be protected in their youth, they should be protected by their father. Then they should be protected by their husband. And when the husband isn't there anymore, or goes out and becomes a sannyasi or something like that, the lady should always be protected by the sons. That's why it's given so much importance to the sons to have good sons. Because the sons normally continued the family tradition, the business or whatever it was. Whereas the girl would leave the family of the father and go to another family. Anyway, so this is very nicely explained in the Vedic literature. And Prabhupada mentions here that all these things, nowadays, they're kind of trying to get rid of all this, and get entangled with so many problems, so much unnecessary karma. Whereas when we follow very nicely, we read these ancient shastras, the Vedic literature, we get a very nice understanding of what the real idea is behind all this. Because the modern scientists say it's all casual. I say casual. Also, life comes from some evolution of matter. But life doesn't come from matter. They have never proven this in any laboratory. That consciousness is a product of evolution of matter. Whereas life actually comes from life. Life doesn't come from, these have two different energies. The lower energy and the higher energy. Material energy and spiritual energy. Anyway, so modern science is a time to convince us that actually the matter, the gross matter, is the basis of everything. But the Vedic literature doesn't say this. It says actually that life comes from life. Just like the Bhagavatam, the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. There are some the teachings of Kapila Muni. He explains that actually life, the soul, gets into the body of the lady by the semen. The semen is carrying the spiritual spark, the soul, and the mother gives the body. Mother and father have different functions. So anyway, so life is not produced anywhere because life is eternal. We are actually eternal. Now we, like I mentioned before, we go into different developments of the body, but it always remain the same. And according to what we have done, we get as a result in our next life. It's not a casuality that we are in this particular body, that we're born in such a place, and whatever, equipped with a certain degree of, how you say, beauty or whatever, or knowledge, whatever, intelligence. This is actually a continuation of what and what we have done, what we have, how we have taken care of all these facilities that we're given, because we have how you say, like I mentioned before, so we have a free will. We can decide. But our decision is very, very limited. Our spiritual master used to say, this free choice, free will, is limited to surrendering to God or not surrendering to God. When you surrender to God, God gives us all facilities to progress in spiritual life. Prabhupada used to say, when you make a step and get towards Krishna, Krishna comes, makes 100 steps. Because he has observed us from within the heart. He's present as a I say, Upadasha Anuman. He's there as a witness and sentient within our heart. Now, anyway, so we are given this incredible opportunity, but nowadays, due to this material confusion, we mostly don't have access to this. And that's why Srila Prabhupada a very important contribution. Not sort of to limited group of people, actually the whole world. Prabhupada used to say, and there's no university where you learn about the soul, what your actually identity is, and what God is. And whenever they teach something of God, it's very vague. It's very limited. Why? Because they're covered with the reactions of so many sinful activities. It's not possible to understand what God is without devotional service, as Krishna says about Bhakti Bhusana Swami Maharaja. Krishna says the only way to understand God is by engaging ourselves in devotional service. This is a great science, devotional service. Actually, we all have to come to that, whatever spiritual path we're going, unless we come to the platform of devotional service, that we actually serve God with love and devotion, we have no access. It's always covered. And that's why the contribution that Prabhupada made, he brought this incomparable gift to the whole world. He started in New York, and then he instructed his disciples to go all over the world and preach Krishna consciousness. In this way, devotees came to South America, they came to so many places. And they also went to India. They also went to India. And when the devotees of Prabhupada came to India, people were surprised. What? You're vegetarians? You're Westerners? You don't take you don't smoke and all these things? So they were very surprised. And Prabhupada sometimes in his programs in India, they had these big pandal programs, and thousands of people would come to hear. And sometimes Prabhupada pointed to some of his disciples and said, he ate meat before. And people went, wow, what? And he was taking LSD, wow, And then Prabhupada said, but he has changed. He experienced a change in heart, a change in heart. And that is only possible by the association of sadhus, sadhu sangha. Yeah. This is our choice, with whom we associate. So sadhu sangha is a very important point. Association with saintly persons who have dedicated their lives to the service, loving service of the Supreme Person of God. And we had this chance to associate ourselves with Srila Prabhupada in the 60s. The first place he went to in Europe he came to Hamburg, North Germany. He had sent a disciple there, and this disciple came from America, alone. Yeah? His mother had given him some money to study, to go to university in Europe. He used his money to go there to preach Krishna consciousness, forgot everything else, following Srila Prabhupada. Yeah? And so he came to that place, far away from whatever spiritual culture is. And anyway, so he invited Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada came. He stayed with us a short time. And he convinced many people to take spiritual life very seriously. And he gave us his incredible books, his Bhagavad Gita as it is, Srimad Bhagavatam and other books to read. And when you read these books, naturally develop faith. That's the beginning of spiritual life. Adho Shraddha. Prabhupada insisted that these books be distributed all over. Now all over, we have translated Srila Prabhupada's books into so many languages. And all over the world, devotees are distributing these books, presenting them at the universities and the libraries and people on the street like that. And all over the world, people are starting to take this very seriously. And adopting this process of devotional service, centered or based around the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
You don't have to be an ecstatic. You don't have to have, so many titles and some academic education to practice this Krishna consciousness. And it's free for everybody. Yeah. Everyone should take advantage of it and make the best of it. We're not forcing anybody. Srila Prabhupada gave us this matchless gift. How you say? This matchless gift. When Prabhupada came to America in the beginning, devotees got him a place. And it was a shop, a very small shop. You can still see it in New York when you go there. And it says on the top of the shop, it says matchless gifts. It was a gift shop before. But when Prabhupada moved in, actually Prabhupada gave us, gave to this shop, he gave real gifts, the most valuable gift. And that is Krishna consciousness, the process of Krishna consciousness. The biggest secret in one sense. It can only be revealed by personalities like our spiritual master or founder Acharya. His divine days as the Bhakti Bhusana Swami Maharaja. Now, this is, like I mentioned, it's all over the world. We have also, make the best of it. Maybe you can take some books with you. Did you bring some books here? Anyway, you have books, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and especially, as you're coming from India, like Prabhupada mentions in his purport, there's already some potential there. Actually, the Shastras say to be born in India, it refers to pious activities in previous life. You're born in India because of pious activities in previous lives. And so you're given another chance. You're giving a bigger chance by taking birth in those births. Now we Westerners going to India, to visit all these holy places. Anyway, you are reborn with this potential. You already from most of you, many times when I meet Indians, they say, yeah, my grandmother was also a saint. My grandfather was the same. My grandfather took sannyas, was in Punjab or whatever. Anyway, so you already got the the elements, very favorable elements to wake your spiritual consciousness within the heart. And it's in this age, it's very simple. The only thing that is required is one is sincere. And actually takes up the process, the Yuga Dharma, for this age, which is the chanting of the holy names. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Maharaj, I'm not able to understand. One of the offenses of the holy name is to instruct a faithless person on the glories of the holy name. So, isn't faith something that can be developed with books, with association? I'm not able to understand that offense, Maharaj.
Yeah, like Prabhupada did. Prabhupada encouraged us to chant Hare Krishna and didn't expect us to actually understand the philosophy from the very beginning. He just encouraged us to chant the holy names and take prasad. And then Prabhupada started speaking to us about the philosophy. So we should encourage people to first chant the holy names to become qualified, start the purifying process. Because when you advance in Krishna consciousness, it's naturally you develop a taste in chanting Hare Krishna, and you become very inquisitive, and you start reading Prabhupada's books, and your understanding becomes, you become more, more, you have more faith, you go deeper into it. So we shouldn't overload people. Well, maybe I did all today. Overload people with philosophy. But we're just following Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada used to chant a long time with his followers, and then he speak philosophy. He didn't just speak philosophy without chanting, without giving them prasadas. And
So
many times when Prabhupada gave conferences in public, and people started to ask strange questions like had nothing to do with it, that they heard from Prabhupada. Prabhupada used to say, chant the holy names, and he only started chanting. And then he stopped again, any questions? And then if the questions were going off too much, okay, chant Hare Krishna. And then you will understand better, because your heart becomes purified. Like Prabhupada, for example, never spoke in public about the intimate pastimes of Krishna. From Vrindavan, gopis, he spoke very basically. How is it? In public, very basic. Everything very basic. Because in order to understand and more confidential subjects, it requires qualification. Like wherever you go and you learn something, first you're educated the basic principles, very basics. Prabhupada used to say Bhagavad Gita is a basis, basic things. And then Bhagavatam and other shastras, they introduce it to more deeper subject matters. But unless we pass the test first, or just like, for example, wherever you study, you go to university, you have to study your textbooks. The basic textbooks, where things are explained very nicely, so you can progress, and things will become more reasonable about it. What do you think? Huh? You're sitting so close? Bueno, yes, please.
Yeah, I have two small questions.
Yes.
If you can share a little bit about your experience being with His Holiness Srila Prabhupada. What did you feel being with him? What caught your attention? That's first
Is
question.
that your questions or somebody's asking through internet?
No, I took notes while you were speaking.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And that's the first question. And the
How was the
second,
first question again?
what caught your attention? If you can share a little bit of your experience with His Holiness, what caught your attention? What did you feel when you were with him in his presence?
When I met Srila Prabhupada, I got the feeling that he's not from this world. He's on a different platform. Yes. And he was so, I say, I noticed that what I noticed at that time was others also noticed. And my godbrother mentioned it the other day in one class that he presented. Or was it that we had a conversation about that? No, where he said that actually everything that Prabhupada did, even the way he moved, and he expressed them, what it was very attractive. I noticed also in India, when we went from Prabhupada in India sometimes, people got stuck at just seeing him, how he walked, how he moved his hands, how he gestures,
Gestures.
and they could all see that he was a very fine person. And that's why also, like we hear Prabhupada's classes today still. He used to give conference or classes, and we still hear him. And the more we hear them, the deeper they become. Like normally with ordinary persons in the material world, when you associate with them, after some time you get to know them. I say, you know how they react and what they would say and why they do things. But in the relationship of Prabhupada, to us as his disciples, it seems that Prabhupada is growing, I see. Becomes more and more important. And many things that we heard at the time when we were young, we had the association with Srila Prabhupada, it was actually very superficial. And as time goes by, Prabhupada becomes a deeper and deeper personality.
Thank you for
And
sharing.
everything Prabhupada did had some sense, I say. There was no time when Prabhupada just did anything or spoke some nonsense. It was all based on the spiritual platform. Of course, this was not possible to understand at the beginning. But the more we become purified, the more we advance in spiritual life, we can have. Nowadays, Prabhupada's disciples, they have so many memories of Srila Prabhupada. The other day we had a meeting in the temple here where we were talking about Srila Prabhupada. It was a day dedicated to Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada Leela, Prabhupada pastimes. And us who had contact with Srila Prabhupada, we started speaking about Prabhupada, and at least in my case, I realized, wow, okay, now I see it even more complete, how do you say? More completer than ever before. Anyway, did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
And he was extremely merciful also. He was actually a servant, not only a servant of God. He was a servant of everybody. Always thinking of the welfare of everybody else.
Maharaj, you gave that example. That one man asked, he said, "Oh, do you think you're an elevated person?" And Prabhupada, of course you know the answer, Prabhupada says that.
I was there in Sweden once, in Malmö. Prabhupada came to Sweden and he spoke at the university. And Prabhupada was speaking of the Varnashrama Dharma. Varnashrama Dharma? And then at that time there were very rebellious students in the 60s, communists and terrorists and all these people. And so there were quite a few of these, rebellious people at the university. So when Prabhupada stopped speaking, he said, "So you think you're first class, man?" No? And Prabhupada said, "No, I'm a fifth class man. I'm a servant of everybody else." And the guy went, everyone sat down and they couldn't believe what they had heard. And also at that time, sometimes when Prabhupada came somewhere, we put him in a big seat, as it is mentioned in the Shastra, that these Mahatmas, real great souls, not just title, they have a title of Mahatma, but actually Mahatma means great soul. Srila Prabhupada used to say, great soul, Mahatma becomes when one, surrenders to the real Mahatma, to God. The lower position you take in front of the real Mahatma, God, Krishna elevates you as a Mahatma. You become important, even though you're not interested in this importance. The more you advance in Krishna consciousness, in spiritual life, the more you adopt the attitude of humbleness, patience, respect, like that. And you care for others. Pratikshava karunika surida sarvadya achata shatra vashante sarava sarvabhusha. Kapila Muni explains the qualities of a sadhu. So I say saintly person. And the first quality, he says, is extremely tolerant. But tolerant? He can exist in any conditions, even though they might be very, dual. I don't understand anything. Anyway, then the next part is Tikteshava Karuna, compassion with other living beings. Can tolerate the suffering of others without doing anything, helping or whatever. And then Suridam Sarvadehinam, a well-wisher of all living entities. Not just of his own family or his own his group like that. But all living entities. That means he is also compassionate, or he is also protective with lower entities. He doesn't kill like that. It's a nice example. One time Prabhupada was in Mayapur, in Bengal, and so his servant was preparing his mosquito net. There's a lot of mosquitoes. There's right on this place is right on the shore of the Ganges. Anyway, it's a lot of mosquitoes. So the servant was putting the mosquito net for Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was sitting there and watching him. And then he finished, and all of a sudden he discovered there was a mosquito in there. So he went in again and tried to catch a mosquito. And devotees, they don't kill the mosquitoes like that, but they actually catch them and throw them out, and say, Hare Krishna, like that. So he got the mosquito and he went to the door and said, Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada said, before you would kill the mosquito without any sense. I said, but now your heart has become soft. So Prabhupada is an example of that. Titikshava karunika surira ajatra shatrava. Yudhishthira, one of the 5 Pandavas. He was one of his name was Ajatashatru. Ajatashatru means he doesn't accept any enemies. He has no enemies. Sadhava. Sadhava means his words and his life are all based on Shastra, on the Vedic instructions. And then it says Sadhu Bhusana. Sadhu Bhusana means that his Bhusana in Sanskrit means ornament. Ornament, like rings and And so it says that his ornaments are these qualities. He doesn't need tattoos or whatever, like that. Sorry. But his ornaments are his qualities. And that's what Prabhupada showed us. Prabhupada was a perfect devotee. He wasn't just teaching, but he was also actually teaching by his own example, like I mentioned before. Did I answer questions?
Yes.
Sorry to extend it.
No, thank you. A second question.
Yes.
What's your favorite chapter of the Bhagavad Gita and what's your favorite shloka?
My favorite shloka? Oh, there are many favorite shlokas. Yeah. You know the Bhagavad Gita well?
I'm learning.
Are you learning? You're doing some course?
Mataji has taught me.
Okay. Anyway,
What's your favorite chapter?
the 9th chapter. You know which is this? It's the confidential knowledge. Yeah. And actually, the middle section of the Bhagavad Gita is the confidential knowledge. Yeah. Yeah. The 6th chapter ends with Yogi Nama Api Sarvesham. No? What a real yogi is, what he's supposed to have reached, no? What he's supposed to be, a real yogi. No? Nowadays, yoga is more known like gymnastic and breathing and all that. No? But actually, yoga is Astanga, eight steps. Yeah. And the ultimate step is devotion to Krishna. Yeah? Devotional service to Krishna. Yeah. Actually, that's also one of my favorite verses. Yogi Nama Api Sarvesham. Especially nowadays, so many people are practicing yoga, but without proper education, without proper knowledge. It's become a big business all over the world. I'm sure here also, in Chile also. But they don't really teach them what yoga is. Yoga actually means link. That we link again with the Supreme Soul, with Krishna. That's our constitutional position, eternal constitutional position. Take up the link again. Yeah. It's very nice that you're studying Bhagavad Gita. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Mataji.
Yeah. Yeah, but she can't teach without having somebody to teach to. Any questions? More questions? Did I answer your last question also?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dhanavad Pranam. My question is...
You have a very nice tilak.
Hare Krishna. So my question is, how to safeguard our bhakti in a situation...
Sorry?
How to safeguard our bhakti in the situation with non-devotees and we don't have proper association?
Well, you have to... Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave a very nice example. He said that, just imagine, a lady has a secret lover. She's married, but he has a secret lover. And in order to protect her secret, she acts perfectly. So nobody doubts. But internally she's always thinking of the lover. In the same way Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, that he gave this instruction to Raghunath Das Goswami. He was born in a very rich family, and he felt a lot of attraction for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, wanted to join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but his parents didn't like that, and several times he tried to escape, and they put guards around him, so he wouldn't escape, he wouldn't go to Puri, to Jagannath Puri, to join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he wrote a letter to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him this advice. And when he followed this advice, in due course, his parents started to trust him again. And then the moment came when he was completely unprotected, and he went and joined Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And his parents, they were very attached to him, and they'd send him for his maintenance. They couldn't imagine how he was living. Anyways, it's a long story in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. You understand? You have to learn how to do it. When you're surrounded with people who are not interested in spiritual development, then you have to protect the creep of devotional service. Doing your duties, but without being attached, and if possible, having association with people who are more serious about life. Yeah? But you have nice association, yeah? Yeah? You have come often. He comes often here.
We have a monthly program, so he comes here for the Namaha.
Good.
But it's monthly program.
Weekly on Zoom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very nice. I can see your creep of devotional service is growing. Yes, it is actually, Prabhupada just, Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that one gets the seed of devotional service by association, and one has to plant it, how you say that?
Water the seed.
Yeah,
One has to water it.
yeah, one has to put it in the heart, not see it as something superficial. And then one has to water the seed. And what is the watering of the seed? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare
and this seed
Hare.
manifests the first leaves, and then more twigs, and then also manifests flowers, and then in the end it manifests a ripened fruit, and that ripened fruit is compared to Krishna prema, pure love of God. And most of you already got the seed. Don't be inattentive. Now you have heard so much, and now you also take prasad. Within a few minutes, I guess. I don't know.
Yes.
You have nice association here. You're hearing about Krishna. You're studying with her, Bhagavad Gita, like that. So this place is becoming like a place of pilgrimage. A holy place. One comes in, the first thing one sees is a deity on the altar, Krishna and Radharani on the altar. So many pictures here. Prabhupada used to say that our paintings are like windows to the spiritual world.
Thank you.
Haribo. Yes, so anything else? Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. In the beginning of the class you said that the soul leaves the body and acquires a new body, right?
Yeah.
The same way it leaves the old garments and gets a new one. So is it wrong to lament when you lose your near and dear ones?
Sorry?
We do understand this, right? That the soul has to leave the present body when it's old,
Yes.
deteriorate, when it's going to get deteriorated, it's going to leave the body and acquire a new one. So is it wrong for us to lament when we lose our near and dear ones? We do understand this, we know
Yes,
this,
yes,
right?
yes. We had this, we were celebrating the disappearance of a devotee in Mendoza just a week ago or so. And I mentioned that actually those who are suffering are those who remain, he's still here. But actually, if a person was on the spiritual path and he leaves his body, then it becomes all better. He takes birth in a favorable place, and a family that gives him more facilities to develop spiritually, like that. The unfortunate are we, because we're feeling the separation of that person. But that person actually achieves a better condition, more elevated position. It says in the Bhagavad Gita, when one is interrupted in spiritual life and leaves the body
Premature.
Krishna doesn't forget, and he gives them another facility to advance further. But if you, like I mentioned, you were born in India. I don't know if you were born in India, but the Shastra say, the verse that we read, it said the Bharata Varsha, when one is born in India, that means one has already had some contact with pious activities or spiritual life and formal life. That's why he's given the chance to progress further. Yeah. And if one is very advanced, it says that might be, if not so advanced, then the Bhagavad Gita says that those souls go to the heavenly planets. There's a whole planetary hierarchy, I say, in this universe. There's the heavenly planets, there's the earthly planets, and there's the Patala Loka, and I mean it's like, I say the sinful,
Hellish planets.
dark areas. And then Krishna says about Gita, if one has advanced in spiritual life, No, there's a letter that I mentioned also. A letter. The Jayananda, no, one of Prabhupada's servants, left the body. No? And Prabhupada wrote an open letter to him. No? He said, well, if you remembered Krishna at the time of death, you went directly to Krishna Loka. But if you had not remembered Krishna, then you probably have gone to the heavenly planets. And Krishna says about Gita, and going to the heavenly planets means it's temporary. You know? It's just like when you go on vacation. You know? You first work to get the money for your vacation, and then at the end of the vacation, when you spend all your money, you have to go back again to make more money. Example. And then, when one comes back to this, level, earthly level, then one is given an opportunity either to take birth in a very rich family, no, or a devotee family, even more auspicious. No, that, for example, our children, when they're born, from the very beginning, they hear Krishna's name, they take prasad, they see the deities, or they see the paintings, you know, on the walls, and they see Krishna, say Radharani, say Sitaram, and they, you know, when they're born, they're already exposed to others. They become acquainted. That's why it's so auspicious to take birth in India. Yeah. So actually, the only ones who suffer are we, when somebody leaves us. But the person who leaves, especially in your surrounding, your devotee, that actually it says in the Shastra that all those persons who are very dear to a person who's dedicated to spiritual life also become dear to Krishna. Because they have a special relationship with him. For example, the mother, the father, like that. They might not understand, especially in the Western world. Like when I became a devotee, I was telling the devotees the other day, when I became a devotee of Krishna, my parents thought, another crazy thing, now it's a Hare Krishna. Yeah, he will change this also, but I never changed. Yeah. And when my father was about to die, I visited him. We didn't know he would leave his body, but when I visited him the last time, he was always against my spiritual way. He was always critical and this. But in the end, he said, "Remain a good person." He noticed that I had actually changed. I had become, according to him, a good person. And so he, by just saying that, and by appreciating one's spiritual life, one also advances. But one can also deal to Krishna. Everybody who helps devotees become also dear to Krishna. So a person leaving your family is very auspicious, very fortunate, because you're a devotee. Yes. And they surely have heard already Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Yeah. What does the psychologist say? Huh?
Everything okay.
Any more questions or commentaries? What caught your attention?
Today's class?
Yeah, for whatever you heard. What caught your
Ishvara
attention?
Parama Krishna.
Huh? Sorry?
Ishvara Parama Krishna, Sachidananda Vigraha, Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakara.
Very good. Hare Krishna. What caught your attention?
Krishna.
Krishna, Jai.
Jai.
What has caught your attention?
What I was really touched by is like many things that you told us today are already being told to us by our Guru.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Many things. And in fact, what you said about a few things that you said today is what we learned in today's morning class also.
Yeah, try Hare Krishna. So come on more often here. Get more and more involved. Yeah, you have such a nice
Yes.
director here. Yeah,
We've learned a lot from her.
yeah. And you can also, in due course of time, you can also teach others. You become like her. Make your home like this home. Invite people. Teach them how to chant Hare Krishna, how to eat prasad. Yeah. We need many more places like that. More and more families who transforming their home into places of spiritual education.